ground. It's a dizzying day. I would give a lot to get away. It's getting real dark in here. Feels like I've been here 1,000 years. Could you bring some light to me? Or just sit beside me and never leave? I got the curtains up. I guess it would be nice if you could interrupt. It's a day like this. It's a day I really would have missed. It's getting real dark in here. Feels like I've been here 1,000 years. Could you bring some light to me? Or just sit beside me and never leave? It's getting real dark in here. Feels like I've been here 1,000 years. Could you bring some light to me? Or just sit beside me and never leave?
Hello, radical homemakers, and welcome back to Rematriate. I wasn't going to make this video. I'm already working away on a different video about a foundational concept because I wanted to cover that kind of thing before I moved on to more detailed and sort of daily life oriented videos, cover the foundations before we move on to smaller, more particular things. But then something wonderful occurred. I actually got to see a terrific example of this concept, or rather a practice, here at Wilderness a few weeks back. And so I have decided to talk about that. It is the shared motherhood of sisters. Heide Günther Abendroth, who is a German professor, and she is the co-founder of Modern Matriarchal Studies, is the one who coined this term. And she calls it absolutely foundational to all matriarchal cultures. So I personally believe that it is the practice of the shared motherhood of sisters that is capable of changing and saving our world. So I'm going to talk to you about the wonderful example of it that I saw a few weeks back and how it is that that forms the foundation and the cosmological underpinnings of matriarchal culture, and a few other things here and there, and hopefully I don't wander around too much to make it uncomfortable for any of you. Anyway, this is Wilderness. It's beautiful, it's wonderful, and I hope that all of you come to see it as a spiritual home coming forward. And let's get into it.
Storms, they come, they
understand the way that matriarchal cultures are so fundamentally, cosmologically different from our own cultures, our own way of life from patriarchy, you must first understand that matriarchies are not a reversal of patriarchy. Matriarchies are not simply a switch of who rules over, of who dominates everyone else. Now, patriarchy is this way. It is the rule of the fathers. Fathers, men, dominate all others in patriarchy, particularly mothers and their children. The founding ideal of patriarchy is the idea of father right. This is the power of fathers to direct and determine every aspect of the lives of the women and children that they own. If you look up patriarchy, it will talk about the rule of the father as a man's absolute authority over all those he dominates, and that this power is maintained either explicitly or implicitly by violence. Father right is exerted by the violation of any other's right to exercise their own decision-making authority over their own life and self. A matriarchy is not a reversal of this. It is not the rule of the mothers. To explain this, I am going to refer rather a lot to the work of Professor Gutner Abendroth, because she is the one who has done so much of the study of matriarchal cultures. I will use her way of framing the founding ideals of matriarchy, and even if I'm not quoting her directly word for word, please know that these are really all her words and her work. I will drop some links to her work in the description of this video for those who are interested in further study. So, a patriarchy is a society ruled by fathers, but a matriarchy is a society centered on mothers. Members of a matriarchal culture respect motherhood as the most important function in society. These are cultures founded not in hierarchy and power over others, but rather based on maternal values of care, nurturing, and mutual assistance, integration, balance, and the solving of conflict through negotiation rather than the imposition of authority. These are cultures that value these ideals in all members of their community, and that are needs-created, needs-oriented, rather than oriented on power to enforce entitlement. Essentially, the biological reality of maternity becomes a cultural model. The ethic of a matriarchal culture is to value and consider the needs of mothers, children, earth, at all times and in all ways. So the way that this plays out in daily life is that all the daughters of a mother will share in the care and nurturing of all of their own children, the shared motherhood of sisters. The cliche of "it takes a village to raise a child" comes, I believe, from our inherent unconscious memory of this natural way of rearing children. This is the way that we all once lived, and deep within the DNA of our consciousness, of our very cells, we remember this truth. We were all once raised within this loving circle of care. Because all members of a matrilinear family continue to live together in the common home of the matriarchal clan, they quite easily share amongst themselves the daily duties of the care and nurturing of all their children. Yes, this can and does include sharing the breastfeeding of all the youngest children. We see remnants of this in certain cultures that have retained their understandings of the physiological, normal way to feed and nurture children from birth, at the breast. In Mongolia, if a baby cries, everyone nearby will offer up their breast to the child, regardless of age or sex. And it's quite funny, actually. Everyone laughs. And because, of course, only mothers can breastfeed. I mean, I have heard tales of older mothers who have relactated to help feed their daughters' children, but certainly men do not breastfeed. So, in fact, If a man has fluid leaking from his nipples, it will be an indicator of disease, most often breast cancer. I learned this one because I knew a man once who was taking female hormones, and he started to have fluid leaking from his nipples. And yes, he had caused a case of breast cancer in himself. That's very unfortunate. He had done this by taking these female hormones. Unfortunately, bad things happen when you oppose nature. So, in terms of sharing breastfeeding, I myself have nursed other children in addition to my own. My youngest sister's first child, I donated pump milk to a friend, and I also nursed my best friend's daughter, who was born the day before my youngest son, Teddy Cub. That's what I'm calling him. In fact, when I babysat for her, I would sometimes tandem nurse Teddy and my friend's daughter at the same time, one on each side. There is a wonderful closeness when you nurse the child of a dear friend or sister. These bonds are so sweet and so firm. And it is not just cross-nursing, but all caring for each other's children. My youngest two children were raised with much cross-mothering. I was part of a group of more than half a dozen women at my place of employment who all became pregnant at the same time. And we were all friends, and we enjoyed sharing the pregnancy with each other. And then we all had our babies close together at the same time. And we regularly got together in a group to celebrate holidays, birthdays, or just for play dates, to hang out. And we often watched each other's kids, and we exchanged other favors, things like that. It was a wonderful period in my life. I'm certain that if Father Demon hadn't taken my children, we would have continued in this way. I am still in contact, 10 years later, with many of these younger women, although since my life disintegrated, I haven't been able to see them very often at all. This is one of the reasons that I do really love Facebook, actually, because this has enabled me to maintain these relationships that I otherwise simply would not have been able to maintain. When I had my house taken from me by members of my family and moved in with Papa Bear, I was then living an hour's drive away from all of my friends, and I was only coming into town to work. So I stay in touch online. But I know that in intact matriarchal cultures, these kinds of relationships are continued, and they form the foundation and the life, the heartbeat of the community. Essentially, the maternal-child bond exists in a web of cross-maternal relationships. Every child of a woman, which is, of course, all humans, looks on every woman as a mother. And also, everyone tries to uphold that attitude of care and nurturing to be like a mother. Yes, even the men. This is valued. And men do behave very, very differently in matriarchal cultures than they do in our own patriarchal civilization. So really, this is the foundational value of matriarchy and the foundational practice. Because this is how they live, what they do. It is what they are. In fact, Professor Gutner-Abendroth speaks about this when she discusses the etymology of the word origin of the term matriarchy. She says that although in patriarchy the suffix archi, from the Greek arche, takes on one of the two meanings of the word, the meaning of domination or rule over, in matriarchy the suffix of archi takes on its other meaning of beginning. Professor Gutner-Abendroth says that as opposed to patriarchy, meaning rule of the fathers, matriarchy means the mothers from the beginning. So yes, matriarchal cultures are those founded by mothers and founded on an attitude of maternal care and mutual interdependence and balance. They are cultures which grow from, because they begin with, and are founded on, the relationships which are woven in practice of the shared motherhood of sisters. And that is what I was blessed to witness in action a few weeks ago here at Wilderness. Let me tell you about the circumstances. Papa Bear has been having a party here at Wilderness for his family in late summer for many, many years. A weekend where everyone comes out here to the forest and camps outside the tiny house, and we have several days of feasting and enjoying each other's company. It's become a tradition, but we haven't had the party for half a dozen years or so because we were struggling with issues that made it difficult for us. And then the pandemic hit. During the pandemic, Papa Bear and I were isolated here alone with just each other, and we loved it. Being alone together was the best thing for our relationship. We look back on that time fondly because we got to spend so much time alone together, but it did cut us off from so many other people. Now that we can congregate and family gatherings are happening again, one of Papa Bear's nieces begged him to have the party again this year. She said that she and her sister would help, so he agreed, and we had more than 24 people at Wilderness over the several days of that long weekend. It was a lot of work, but so totally worth it. This kind of event is where my Papa Bear truly shines. I'll explain by telling you about him. I don't know if any of you other radical homemakers are familiar with Myers-Briggs personality typing, but I use it rather a lot. I like to learn the type of everyone who is in my life so that I can better understand them and deepen our relationship. Now, I mention this because when I tell you about Papa Bear's personality type, it will help you to understand him and this story. A Myers-Briggs personality type is written out as a 4-letter combination. There are 16 of them because there are 2 letter choices for each of the 4 slots. I'll give you a few examples. I myself, Mama Cass, am an ENFJ. Man Cub, my eldest son, who I share City Den with, is an INFP. Sunny Cub, my middle daughter, is an INTJ. Raven Cub, my eldest daughter, is an INFJ. Flower Cub, my youngest daughter, is an ENTP. And I haven't been able to type Teddy Cub, my youngest son, because he is still held by Father Demon, my narcissist ex-hole. And my Papa Bear is an ESFJ. Each of these types also have nicknames. There are variations on nicknames used among different folks, but I have some personal favorites because I think they capture the type, explain them the best. The nickname I like best for my own type, ENFJ, is the teacher. And the best one for Papa Bear, ESFJ, is the hostess. The fact that it is quite rare for a man to be an ESFJ is probably why it is called the hostess rather than the host, but Papa Bear really isn't hung up on such foolishness as being manly. He carries a bag around with him that he openly calls his purse, and he admits to anyone that he loves taking a bubble bath with a glass of wine. An ESFJ, an ESFJ is really a people person who loves family, friends, taking care of people, and values relationships above all. So yeah, a weekend-long party with 36 close friends and family at Wilderness is his wheelhouse. And I love this stuff too, because my type, ENFJ, is very similar. Papa Bear and I are both extroverted people, and we both love to cook, and especially for other people. In fact, cooking is the way that Papa shows his love most often and most profoundly, especially for family. He has 2 grandsons that he visits as often as possible, and when he goes there, he spends most of the week or so that he is there in the kitchen feeding everyone. If anyone is interested in learning more about Myers-Briggs personality typing, I will drop some links in the description for this video. I would also love to hear what your type is. Please comment. Tell me what you are. I'm curious. Anyway, so for the party, Papa Bear spent several weeks cleaning up around the place. He even renovated a long unused outhouse and evicted the hornets that had been living in it. It was a lot of work. When his 2 nieces arrived that had asked to revive the tradition and began to set up camp for themselves and their children, Papa was stressed out because he was worried about everything, but he was also elated. And the nieces did help out, even though they had several children and stepchildren to care for, including a babe in arms. The reason that they were able to do so much cooking meals for 40 people and helping others set up their camps while supervising children in and out of the swimming pool and also socializing and taking pictures is because they looked after each other's children. The baby was happy in the arms of either sister and also in the arms of cousins such as Papa Bear's daughter. These cousins and sisters live close to each other and spend much time together. Frankly, without the help from each other, it would be hard for them to each hold down the jobs that they have. I had a wonderful time, and Sunny was there at the party too. She enjoyed herself immensely. It really warmed my heart. It reminded me so much of my friends and myself, all looking after each other's children, babies, just so much interconnection, so much love. It was a blessing. It was a privilege to see. It was the happiest time in my life. And so seeing this happen again in front of me, it was miraculous. It was a good weekend. And this is why I wanted to share this with you all, fellow radical homemakers. I suspect that some of you have had some experience of this practice in your own lives. I want you to understand why it feels so good when it happens and why it is so important to do as much of it as you can whenever you can. This absolutely can change the world because matriarchal cultures grow from the shared motherhood of sisters as the founding ideal in practice. Engaging in this practice begins the reweaving of a matriarchal culture. We are living out these values, and that begins to create a different reality. It is not sufficient to do this, but it is a necessary cause of the instigation of a matriarchal culture. So for me, seeing these young women caring for each other's children and tag teaming and coordinating all of the tasks that weekend was immensely inspirational. I told this to the one niece who had asked Papa Bear to have the party again, and I thanked her for asking him because it was so good to see him blossoming again like that. And now I'm sharing it with you all. So, think about your own lives and your own sisters. Not all of them will be your blood sisters. Many will be close friends or other relatives because we don't all have healthy individuals as members of our immediate families. But think of those people and of those times when you have been able to share in acts of caring. It may have been in the rearing of children, but not necessarily. Caring for elders or friends in time of need, all these are part of practicing an ethic of care. And when we share the work of care with others, we are sharing in the work of building community founded on that ethic of care. We are making ourselves a home for ourselves, of ourselves, in ourselves. That's what we wish to do here on Rematriate, after all and always. We are radical homemakers. Thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate the interest. And I want to thank everyone who watched the first one that I made, and especially those of you who subscribed. Your faith in me means the world to me. I also want to apologize. I'm very sorry that it's taken me so long to get the second one out. There's always a lot going on in my life, and because I work close to 50 hours a week, and my job is heavy physical labor, which means an increased need for sleep due to me having 2 autoimmune disorders. It's really hard for me to find time and energy for these, but I'm committed to plugging away at it. So thank you for coming back. Thank you for hanging in there with me. I'll be back as soon as I can. As always, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other as we make ourselves a home. Yeah.